TradeTheNBI.com. This is John's report for the 27th of July. Well, and as expected, we came with that weakness we were seeing from the NBI reading, the magenta below yellow, and also dipping below the 33, the DOC spread with cyan, shorts rising, green, midterm buyers fading off a bit. Resulted in, well, a move right back to that 50% level that we were talking about, which was down at the 21 level, and actually eclipsed through it, but then caught a bid from there. And you can see in the pre-market, we've pushed all the way back up to what the previous open was, simply pushing out weak hands. Bigger buyers, institutional guys, they love the 50% range from a buy standpoint, but we also had some earnings that came through that were fine, and everyone was questioning what the situation is going to be with Powell's decisions, whether they're going to lessen the hawkish push. If they do, then I would expect that we're going to get probably a pretty immediate positive reaction. We're already seeing a turn back up of magenta here with a strong dip of shorts in that. So I think it looks like shorts took an opportunity to just cover at that 50% from the higher move, and that's lifted things at this particular stage. Of course, we said the NASDAQ would be most likely the leader on it, but it's also still considerably in a weak mode. Easy to find for that one right at the 61%, 12,247. So below that certainly becomes potential for short as long as we're maintaining these weak levels. But you can see it's been this rising gold, which tends to maintain trend over a period of time until it starts to fade off. The euro, what's to be said with the euro? Again, this is that daily back and forth of, is the Nord Stream working? Now another turbine is out. Will that one get fixed? They're down to 20% flow. That's just a symptom of the broader issues of their banking and everything else that's been fueled just by massive deficit spending. You now have several governments that are, even though the UK is not in the EU, it still behaves pretty much the same way, but obviously Italy's government is going to be changing, and a few others in the sector, even Germany, are looking at political upheaval, and that is going to be problematic since Europe's already in a recession, and it's just a question of how severe it will be. And from a gold standpoint, again, hitting up against resistance here, even with the white at the 23%. Long-term prospects for gold still look very strong, except for everyone keeps talking about this deflationary construct. And until we see it materialize, it's just speculation at this particular point. So a lot of the sell-off has just been on that anticipatory construct that oil isn't going to remain up there, but really we're not seeing much in the way of changes from a supply situation, other than a recession would certainly reduce demand, which certainly would help alleviate prices, but still in the 95 range, not exactly cheap. And from a TLT, which is treasuries, a little bit of a return increase in yield, but it's been on a steady incline simply because everyone believes that the Fed is going to stop rates. But if they do continue, it becomes problematic from a yield standpoint, because at some point they really have to resolve the inflationary issue, unless, like the factors we talked about the other day, they take a little bit more time, allow for absorption within the economy of what they've already done, and try and ease off some of the constraints that existed within oil on that. I mean, it's a huge move if you just keep oil prices low. That takes care of a lot of things, economically at least. From a Bitcoin standpoint, the struggles maintaining above that 20, keeps holding support right about there, so it seems to be a pretty strong range, anywhere from 19 to the 22 has been pretty much the range built in after the massive decline from the peak in the 60s. ETH also was beautifully lower throughout most of the day, and then post-market here caught the bid and is pretty much following along with the U.S. markets, so trading identical to that. And the short setup come through, and you can see the turnaround literally very clean too, because even when we pivoted below and you had the blue under the gray down at the bottom, you could see that magenta was still leading. So you knew any pivot up was going to be a turnaround signal at that particular stage. And sure enough, pivoted pretty early. You see orange dropping down below red and turn around and shake out. So anywhere along, all the way up to the second bar here, or even the green one that finally turns as it closes above the 23% is easy follow through. Intraday, we looked at, it was pretty much just weakness throughout most of the early part of it, with that occasional run up. And see, this is where we talk about with red leading and magenta, normally that's straight up buy, but without a dip of orange significantly, there's no momentum to it. This one actually produced it, had the best potential, but literally the turnaround happened rather quick on the pivot lower of NBI magenta down towards the yellow, and then breakdown. Obviously, love this one too, where steel crosses below the orange rising. Tends to create weakness, and that brought us to the floor, which was underneath that 50%, and that's when we started to see buildups, and then retests of it, and tested it twice. It was actually a lower double bottom there, and that was enough to build support in anticipation of favorable comments coming from the Fed later today. We'll see how that plays out. It could be just a sucker's bet. More likely, it could have been forcing shorts to cover. And we know that those rallies tend to be significant. We already see that it started off on positive extremes, which means we can take one of these horizontals and just go like that and get a pretty good idea of potential retrace on weakness there down at the 38 level. And of course, obviously the 21 range with the 50% certainly fits with that build. So exciting, great ranges, nothing to object about at this particular stage. As always though, keep updating you on the Skype chat. Trade well, talk to you later.